Red Glass, Chapter 7, Escaping Death. The first time, Angel said, I was picking coffee beans. I was about 4 years old. To get to the finca, our family had to walk for hours. It belonged to a rich family. They paid us to pick the coffee and gave us a room to stay in for a few weeks. The plants were on steep mountainsides with loose rocks, really sharp. We each had ropes tied around our waists in case we fell. The year before, a girl fell and died, fell into the river, hit her head, and drowned. We had to be careful. That's why we had the ropes. And we each carried a basket. So there I am, filling the basket. It's half full of berries when I slip. I wait for the rope to stop me, but I'm so little it slides right off. I keep falling, rolling down the mountain, rocks banging me, coffee plants grabbing at me. While I fall, I think things. I wonder how it will feel to fall straight down through the air. How will it feel when I smack the water? How will it feel to breathe in the river? Suddenly, I'm lying still by a pile of giant rocks. I remember seeing candles lit there on a stone altar. I remember feeling the moss soft beneath me. No more bright sunshine, just cool shadows. I'm in heaven, I decide, and in the tallest candle flame, there's a dancing woman in white. La Virgen, I think at first. But then she turns into my mother. Then my great-grandmother, who died, and my great-aunt, who died. She's made of light, glowing. Then she grows and grows until she's so big she has 1 foot on either side of the mountain. Next thing I know, my mother, my real mother in the flesh, is kneeling over me, her hands holding my face, her lips all over my head. She presses her head to my chest and hears my heartbeat, moves her cheek near my mouth, feels my breath. She rips off her shirt and tears it to pieces, 1 strip around my arm, another around my leg, another around my forehead. The white strips turn red with my blood. I feel a little embarrassed that I see her breasts. She's come first, and then the others come. I don't know how she's made it down here so fast. My father gets there and covers her with his shirt, carries me along a path back to the hut. Later, I ask my mother, "How did you find me before the others?" She says, "Hijo, I saw a light over that spot where you were, a light that grew bigger and bigger." You know, for a while after that, I asked myself, why was my mother glowing along with my great-grandmother and great-aunt when she wasn't dead? We camped again the second night. The next morning on the road again, Angel leaned over to check on his carved box, which he kept under the seat and checked at least once an hour. I wanted to ask more about the box. Would he clam up if I mentioned it? I mustered up the breeziest voice I could. Angel? So there's probably something important inside that box, huh? He nodded, but said nothing. Pablo started in. Is animal? Is lizard? Is chicken? And on until Angel cracked a smile. Then Mr. Lorenzo and Dika joined in. Hair gel? Drugs? Gold? Dirty magazines? Angel laughed, but he didn't let Pablo shake the box, no matter how much he pleaded. I loved listening to this silly banter with Pablo because he seemed, for once, like a normal little boy. This was what we'd been trying to get him to do for the whole past year. Normal little boy stuff that could even be obnoxious at times. Me and Juan would be amazed. Mom and Juan would be amazed when we got back. For the rest of the day, Pablo occasionally piped up with a, you'll say, is $1 million? Is $1 million? That afternoon, Pablo dozed while the road climbed uphill through rugged mountains spotted with giant agave plants that were taller than me, their wavy leaves like jellyfish tentacles. Wet green leaves and tropical flowers filled the valley, looking mysterious through patches of fog. Angel whispered to me, "Will Pablo come back to Tucson for vacations ever?" "He'll decide to live with us." My voice sounded defensive. "I'm sure of it. And he'll go to his village on vacations." What if he wants to stay with his relatives?" "Well, then he can. But look at him. He's like a normal American kid now." "But this is his land," Angel said. "His tierra." "You left your tierra to come to the U.S.? "I didn't want to." He had papers, I knew, papers that made him and Mr. Lorenzo legal in the U.S. Dika had told me they were legal residents, just like her, since they were all three refugees, fleeing violence in their countries. Dika had gotten her visa before she came, but Angel and his father came to Tucson first, illegally crossing the desert. At their court hearing, they had to prove they would be killed if they went back to Guatemala. When I asked Dika how you prove something like that, she said, "They say us when they want to say us." "But, Angel, you live in Tucson now, and you're there to stay, right?" He didn't answer. "Angel, you're at least finishing high school and going to college in the U.S., right?" He shrugged. "I already made my schedule for next semester. How could I miss calculus?" Later, at a gas station, while Angel was filling up the tank, I asked Mr. Lorenzo if they were going to stay in Tucson. Dika pricked up her ears. "Of course they stay in Tucson," she said. "Of course," Mr. Lorenzo said, patting Dika's hand. He switched to Spanish. "We have jobs, and Angel has school. And there is too much violence still in our town. Even now that there is no war, there are still weapons and still anger. No, we will stay in Tucson. There is nothing for us in our town." "Except for your wife's jewels?" I said. "Yes, except for her jewels." "Life is a long, long car ride," I said to Angel that evening as we wound up a mountain past shacks selling fruit and sodas and beer. We sat in the back seat with Pablo, who was wedged between us, asleep. "Headed where?" "I don't know. Death?" "What do you know about death?" Angel looked serious. I don't know," I laughed. I'd meant the comment as something lighthearted. I'm still in the car ride part. I didn't say anything about all the times I'd convinced myself I was on the verge of death. "Well, what do you know about life then?" "Not much. Waiting." "For what?" "School to end, school to start, to go to college, get a job, to be in love," I thought, "to have sex, to stop being scared." Angel peered out the window into the growing darkness where the roadside dropped off steeply, a nearly vertical fall to the valley below. I couldn't look. It made me dizzy and nervous to think that with one slip our van could tumble over the cliff and smash at the bottom, all of us dead within seconds. "When I think of life," Angel said, "I think of us all hanging on by these ropes, feeling we're safe. But really, we could slip out at any time. None of our ropes are safe. That's what I realized. That coffee picking season, my bruises and scrapes healed up, and I went back to the coffee fields. This time my father tied the rope so tight it burned. I should have been scared, but I wasn't. I loved it more then. I loved the way the berries tasted in my mouth, kind of sweet and slimy. I loved the sound of people singing and joking around while we picked." "I wouldn't have done that," I said. "I wouldn't want to even look at the mountainside again." "Maybe, or maybe not. Maybe life would taste sweeter." Angel said he was born in the Mayan village where his mother grew up. A midwife delivered him at home, and after she cleaned and swaddled him, she told his parents, "Your son will travel far and do great things." I wish someone had said that about me. A gem of knowledge to carry around in my pocket, to hold on to when panic welled up. I would step into elevators bravely without a thought of the doors failing to open and being stuck inside for a week without food or water and dying alone. I would look people in the eye and move with confidence. That was how Angel walked and talked. He had this clear stone inside him, so solid, this prediction that he would be great. If Angel had a gem at his center, what I had inside was a sharp, rusted piece of metal like the rotting tailpipe on the ancient beat-up car Mom and I had when I was little. Whenever it broke down, she had to find someone to give us a ride. To get my allergy shots, which was hard when our phone was disconnected. Mom just bumbled around the neighborhood smiling, knocking on doors, asking for a ride, saying it would all work out, thanking everyone in her charming British accent. "Cheers, you're brilliant." Meanwhile, I was worried so much that my stomach ached, and then she'd have to take off work and lose that day's wages, and then my stomach ached even more, as though that shard of metal were digging itself farther and farther inside me. The third night, we slept in the van again, on the side of a dirt road just off Route 15. At some point in the night, Pablo crawled into bed between me and Dika, his head nuzzled into my neck. Light streamed through the window. Moonlight, it must have been, although I couldn't see the actual moon from my angle. His small hands were tucked up under his chin. Was he anxious about going back to his village? I stroked his hair. It was fine, so soft. I buried my nose in it. "Mi abuelita te puede curar, Sophie." Pablo's voice was thin and small, like a newly planted seedling. I opened my eyes and looked at him. "What? Your grandmother can cure me? See?" He looked at me. His eyes looked very old for a 6-year-old's, enough to make you believe in reincarnation. He could have been a wise old monk in a past life. I spoke to him in Spanish. "De veras? Really? Cure me of what? My allergies? My fears? My curse?" He nodded. "Todo." He wound a strand of my hair around his finger, rubbed it against his cheek. "That would be nice, Principito." Someone shifted in the bunk over us. Maybe Angel was awake too. I pictured him curled around his locked box, smoothing the wood the way a child smooths the satin edge of a blanket. I considered giving him a sign, clearing my throat, coughing, lightly whistling, but then I flushed at the thought, forced myself to close my eyes, and made my breathing match Pablo's. Eventually, I slept.